Well, as you can tell, it's a beautiful day for baseball. Take a look now at our Valentine Roofing roof report. A few clouds, but a lot of blue sky out there. 75 degrees roof. Oh, it's wide open. Wind 6 miles per hour. Good day for baseball. Good day to win a series. And welcome up in the booth. It's Brad and Ryan Rowland-Smith. And we're joined now by Aaron Goldsmith. The great thing about the show, you never know who's going to drop by, who's walking by saying, hey, can I be on the show? Can I be on the show? Aaron, you've been asking for weeks, and here you are, my friend.
You never know whose workspace you could be taking to do the show.
What you're talking about there. Do you need it, my friend?
No, there's plenty of booths available.
Good.
You guys take your time here. You're doing great work.
This is nice. I like this up here, all right? Now that we've got you, and I know that when you do games with Mike Blowers, you guys like to talk a lot of analytics because Mike loves the numbers.
Yeah, we do. We do.
You do, yes. So let's also talk about that today. Maybe kind of a refresher course for the viewers out there. Some things that kind of the newer stats that baseball is using now to kind of evaluate and give credence to.
Well, all joking aside, Blower Power has come a long way, and he adopts a lot of this stuff. Well, we talk baseball quite a bit on the air and off the air, and Mike is pretty good at speaking the language of the new statistics. And I give our Root Sports crew a ton of credit for incorporating so many of these newer numbers into our graphics that we see pregame, postgame, and in-game as well. The two that we put out there often on the broadcasts are WOBA, weighted on base average, and also WRC plus, and they both tell almost the same thing on a different scale. And what I mean by that, weighted on base, WOBA reads like a batting average, right? Like you're used to seeing a guy hitting 250. League WOBA right now, league average WOBA is 310. League average WRC plus is always the same each and every year. It's 100. That is league average. The reason why we tend to sometimes lean WRC plus over WOBA is I think even though they both have funny names, right? Neither one of them are branded very well. But WRC plus is, I think, easier to comprehend because it's simply based on the scale of 100. If a player is 110, they're 10% better than league average. If they are 90, they're 10% worse. The bottom line, what these two statistics are trying to do is they're trying to reward an offensive player for creating runs. And we know this. If you are a 350 hitter, that's incredible.
Right.
That's amazing. But what if 80% of your hits were singles? Wouldn't it be worth something if you were let's say Mike Trout, a 290 hitter, but with 20-plus bombs?
Right.
Like, would you rather have the 290 hitter with
Absolutely.
all the power? Yes, of course you would, than a 350 hitter who just has a squirt gun up there. So both WRC plus and weighted on base, what they do is they weight the offensive outcome as it is appropriate to creating runs. So we know this. A single is better than a walk, right? You can move a base runner.
Yes.
More stations potentially with a single. A double is better than a single. A triple, you see where I'm going with this? A triple better than a double. Guess what the best is, Mike? Oh, you're not Mike, you're Brad.
Not a hit by pitch.
A home run.
Home run. Okay,
a home run.
Yeah.
I know. I
would have got there.
We're all getting up to gear here. So with these two statistics, we credit players for their ability to create runs by how they create offense, by rewarding players for, in this case, extra base hits or walks or hit by pitches or home runs. And that's why Scott's a WOBA man.
WOBA?
He's a WOBA man.
WOBA's kind of fun to say.
Now, the other thing that WRC Plus does, in addition to the scale of 100, is it does adjust for park and league factors. Because we know this.
Smart.
If you are a hitter for the Giants at Oracle Park or for the A's at the Coliseum, that's a lot different than being a hitter for the Diamondbacks at Chase Field or for the Rockies at Coors Field, right? Totally different offensive environments.
Yeah, I think Root Sports, you mentioned, do such a good job of showing these graphics, but if they don't have the 100 scale, the fact that they're showing MLB average, there's so many numbers, and you can look at chase rates and contact percentage, and you look at it and you see the percentage, you're like, okay, but what is the average? What's the average player doing? So I think it's super important when you do have these systems that can kind of give you sort of, not the benchmark, but what is that average Major League player?
And that's what WRC Plus has baked into it that is so great. Because it's funny, so many casual baseball fans, I think if you ask them, hey, what's a good hitter hit? They would say 300. Like, that's the number that we were raised thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, the league average, batting average right now is in the neighborhood of 245 or so. So if you're a 300 hitter, well, you're a great hitter, right? But the point is, year by year, the offensive environment changes. We know it was especially difficult this year. Batting average does not account for that, right? On-base percentage is a great tool. It does not account for that. but WRC Plus does, and weighted on base also does.
And it's factored, as you mentioned, for ballparks. I like that. And also current, I guess, talent level that they're facing. I mean, these pitchers are better than ever. The stuff they're throwing, they're faster than ever. They're moving more. It's so more difficult to hit now than it was even 10 years ago. I think it's huge to be able to differentiate that.
Well, think about Cal Raleigh for a moment. Cal Raleigh is hitting like roughly 200.
I think right at 200.
Yeah. He has a WRC Plus of around 110. So he's hitting, let's just call for round numbers, somewhere around 40 points lower than league average for his batting average. But what does he do? He mashes.
Right.
He hits bombs, right? And on WRC Plus, he gets, let's call it extra credit for hitting a home run than he would for getting a single. So because of that, he is roughly 10% better than league average based on WRC Plus.
All right, we're going to talk more with Mr. Goldsmith, more stats. Talk about some pitching, right? Up in the zone, what's it mean? Blue Jays like it there. Mariners like to throw there. Who's winning so far in this series? We'll throw in some.
The Mariners, Brad. The Mariners are winning.
Thank you. That's true. They won the first two. That's right. All right, we're back talking more stats with Aaron. We are back with you here at the BP, on the BP show. Take a look now at our EQC pitching matchups for Game 3 of the 4-game set with our neighbors from the north. It's Alex Manoah, their ace. I'm going to call him the ace right now with Barrios' struggles for Toronto. And Robbie Ray facing his former team, 7-6, a 3-6-2 on quite the roll of late. This will be a good pitching matchup tonight. Welcome back up in the booth. Aaron stopped me by joining us to talk a little more about pitching. I guess we can do that. Hyphen here as well. We saw the pitching matchup. Robbie Ray is a guy who's now using a two-seamer, using both sides of the plate. Still likes to pitch up and into righties. In fact, the Mariners like to pitch up, having some good success doing that up in the zone. Aaron, can you explain why pitchers are doing that more often, and then how do hitters like the Blue Jays, how do they kind of counteract that high strike?
Yeah, I'm curious, Hyphen, your take on this as well, certainly. The trend for the Mariners has been the trend in all of baseball, which is to attack the top of the strike zone. And if you look at this matchup, this really caught my eye going into this series. The battle for the top of the strike zone. Look at the Mariners' 5-man rotation. This is where they rank in terms of percentage of pitches in the top third of the strike zone. Let's be clear about something. These are strikes. These are not chase pitches up out of the zone. We are talking actual pitches that would be called a strike in the top third of the tic-tac-toe board that we see on TV every night. George Kirby, third in baseball. Gilbert, nearly in the top 10. Flexen, Robbie Ray. I bet your Ray's number was a little bit higher before that started in Houston, right? Before the two-seamer came in. That probably dilutes it a little bit. And then maybe the surprising guy in the top 40, that guy, the boring guy, Marco Gonzalez. Hey, don't tell him with 88 and 89 Hyphen he can't pitch at the top of the zone. He does it very effectively, especially up and into righties.
It's pretty amazing, too, and some of the numbers that you talked about in the last segment. And just obviously the way the trend has been pitching up in the strike zone. Obviously spin rate now is something that is really in vogue where from an analytics standpoint, they really think highly of it. I think for Marco Gonzalez, you go back, call it even 5 years ago, especially 10 years ago, with his stuff. You mentioned the 87, 88 and that good changeup. It would have to be, look, you have to be down in the strikes and you have to generate weak contact on the ground. But all of a sudden, when you do have more of a deep dive into some of the numbers and you do have the technology to really see what the ball, how the ball's behaving, Marco Gonzalez is like, man, I've got a nice little strong suit up here, especially with that cut fastball up and in, and I can get some really weak contact and generate weak contact up in the upper part of the strike zone. But that was something you always were taught, hey, get the ball down, get the ball down. Completely different in these last 5 years.
And for Marco, with his command, being able to pinpoint up and into a righty, it must open up the entire avenue for his changeup.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And that's one of these things as well. It was more about left and right, where for Marco Gonzalez, he's probably thinking up in the strike zone right there. That little
movement. I like that.
Little workout in the outfield. But I think it's one of these things. You used to be, okay, you got to pitch in to open up that other part of the plate. Now it's more north to south. Now it's because we understand what happens when the ball has a different spin away from the average when you're talking spin rates up or down. So essentially, if you have a higher spinning fastball, you can live up in the strike zone essentially more. And then if you have a lower spin, lower than average, you can live at the bottom of the strike zone. I think Marco understands that with his fastball, and like you said, it just makes that changeup a way tougher pitch to hit.
All right, so the Mariners like to pitch up there, but the bad news, I guess, for this series, although it's worked out well, is the Blue Jays like to hit up there. It's a hard pitch to lay off, hard pitch to hit, but the Blue Jays do it very well there.
And this is why it's the battle for the top of the strike zone of this 4-game series, right? It's one team's strength, the Mariners rotation, versus the other team's strength, the lineup of the Blue Jays. Look at this. The Blue Jays against pitches this year in the top third of the strike zone. 297, the best batting average. We were just talking about weighted on base. So we're looking at the total picture. The on base, the slug, all put into one number. Second in baseball. The slug is second. And, hey, man, they're hitting it hard. 93 miles an hour, the average exit velocity. Top in baseball. And we look at the strikeout rate. This isn't 28th in terms of highest, it's 28th lowest. So they are rarely swinging and missing. It's really remarkable because, Ryan, you know this. If you were to look at overall slash numbers, bottom third of the zone, middle third of the zone, top third of the zone, the top third is where you don't want to be as a hitter. That's a death zone.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, that goes with that strength of pitching. But I think when you look at this, too, from a pitching standpoint, this is not something where, oh, wow, look at these numbers. Okay, I better start pitching at a different part of the strike zone. As a pitcher, your chances, your odds are way better when you're sticking with your strength. So one thing you would look at if you're looking at sitting with Pete Woodworth, the pitching coach, and saying, okay, how much do they chase above the strike zone? Okay, I can live at the top part of the strike zone, but can I just elevate that a little bit more? And what counts after what pitch? That's when pitch sequencing is a big part of this too. How can I get back to the top of the strike zone? Obviously, you know, George Kirby lives up there, but he lives up there because he's able to sequence off different pitches. So a lot of these things come into it. It's not a situation where you're like, oh man, now all of a sudden I'm going to get to the bottom of the strike zone looking at those numbers.
When you look at individual hitters for the Blue Jays, so the question is, of a team that does this better than, let's say, essentially anyone, who is the best of the best for the Blue Jays? Vlad Jr., third highest average exit velocity on pitches top of the zone, and yet his numbers aren't as good as the man batting behind him, Alejandro Kirk. He has mashed high pitches this year. The guy to me that has made the biggest adjustment in this category for the Blue Jays is Matt Chapman. Mariners fans probably remember him last year, especially at the end of the season with the A's. The Mariners got him out at-bat after at-bat after at-bat, up and in with a fastball, especially Paul Sewald. He chewed him up late in games. Chapman entering this series, 7 home runs on the top rail of the strike zone, top third of the strike zone, tied for the most in baseball. He knew going into the winter he had to make an adjustment, or else if he lights out for him, everybody would go up against him. He's been able to make a change, and he has crushed at the top of the zone.
And we have not even talked about Alejandro Kirk's body. I mean, that is a marvel.
You know what?
Good for him.
I love it.
It proves that this game is the best because it doesn't matter what you look like, how you're built, you can start the All-Star game.
And he will start the All-Star game. Hitting over 300 this year. All right, so that is a deep dive into some of the new numbers and analytics with our good friend, Aaron Goldsmith. This is great.
I'm ready.
Huh?
Let's
You're
go.
ready for the game?
Is it first pitch now?
No.
We didn't mention Robbie Ray's pitching tonight. He's going up top.
We're getting you out of here. Go rest a little bit. Ice down, my friend. We appreciate it. We'll get you on a BP show again. You did well. We'll do it again. I like that. All right.
That means a lot, Brad. Thank you.
Hey, you bet, my friend. All right, Mariner fans enjoying this one. Going for a series win. We're back talking.
That's some hair. Did you see that hair?
That was good hair.
That's better than both of us combined.
Well, wow. That's hard to say.